Diablo released some preliminary changes. We have some buffs, and buffs, and buffs, and one very peculiar nerf. We're going to get into all of the changes right now. The start of the season is going to be on July 1st. That is when Season 9 will be dropping for us. We're going to start off this with all of the unique changes that have happened. As you know, every season we get new uniques. This season we have a whole bunch of them, and all of them have actually gotten slight adjustments after the feedback from the PTR. We're going to start with the Barbarian, of course, best class. They have a basic skilled pair of boots. These boots are actually incredibly strong, and hopefully this will make it somewhere into maybe the aspect rotation or something that is going to become a generic unique, because for any basic skill build, this is the build that you will want. While attacking with a basic skill, while at maximum fury, your fury will be increasingly drained until you run out, and all of your basic skills will now cleave. Every single one of them will cleave, which makes it really, really awesome. The cleave radius is actually being increased. So we're now going to have a much bigger radius of our AoE, which is going to make this build feel a lot better. We can pull a lot more monsters into the group and then hit more monsters as we're going. For the Druid, this is actually a very interesting buff. I really think that this might actually make this pretty viable for the pulverized Druids that are out there. They're increasing the willpower pretty significantly, up to 4% more willpower. Now, if you know, you can get several thousand willpower, so those percentages really, really add up. Poison damage is also being massively buffed from up to 150% to 550%. They also changed around the way that the aspect is going to be working. It used to be that every 10 seconds, Pulverize would form a puddle that would deal additional damage, and then that's poisoning damage over 6 seconds. Pulverizing the puddle splashes an additional damage of the puddle's total damage within the area around it. Now that's changing. So what it does now, if there are no puddles around you, Pulverize is going to form a puddle that guarantees its own overpowers, and the puddle is going to deal up to 600% of its normal damage as poisoning damage over 7 seconds. Pulverize causes all close puddles to splash for up to 60% of their total damage within that area around them. Pulverize radius increase will affect the size of the puddles and its splashes. So if you get Pulverize radius increase size, it's going to make it so that there's bigger splashes, bigger puddles. The Necromancer. Now we're going to be getting really, really cool new mages in the new season. They're going to be archmages, and they're going to be pretty big. Now on the PTR, everybody definitely said that they could have been bigger, and Blizzard listened. The time between attacks shattering has been reduced by 50%, which is really, really great. That's going to be more damage. Skeletal archmages now become unstoppable 1 second after teleporting. Archmage size slightly increased, so we're going to see them even bigger than they were on the PTR. So that's going to be a pretty nice buff for the Necromancers. For the sorceresses and the sorcerers out there, we're going to be taking the critical strike chance on their brand new unique, and that's going to be changed out with attack speed. I actually think that's a really good buff, because getting to cap on a lot of the classes out there is actually relatively easy. So replacing something with attack speed other than critical strike chance, I think that's probably a pretty good change. And then Devouring Blaze has been changed to Primordial Binding. For the Rogue, we're going to be seeing the life cost reduce. You can now overexert yourself. While casting Flurry, spend 10% life when you don't have enough energy. Spending life while cast Flurry increases its damage up to 50% and your attack speed up to 50% for 5 seconds. So that life cost is now going to be reduced so that you can probably kill yourself a lot slower, because that's what you can do with this build. Flurry damage is also going to be increased now from 30 to 50% to 50 to 70%. So it's a really big buff there. Now, this was the very curious one that we saw. Now, the Spiritborn have been lacking a little bit in having that really cool, flashy meta build. However, the Spiritborn in the Season 8 have figured it out, and they are actually moving their way up on the leaderboards. I think people were saving it for the very end of the season to get there. The damage that is going to be done from Thorns is being reduced and cut in half. This is going to make that Thorns build that everybody was super excited about maybe a little less strong, but we'll have to see what it actually feels like in the game, because I think there are a couple other changes with some of the new powers that are still going to increase your Thorns damage even more than they were before, so maybe you're going to make up for it a little bit there. Speaking of the powers, let's take a look at these right here. We're going to be looking at some of the changes to the Catalyst and then to the infusions. The Catalyst changes, Celestial Surge, the lucky hit chance is being reduced, and with Propulsion, the cooldown has been reduced from 9 seconds to 8 seconds, and then from 4.3 seconds to 3 seconds at rank 20. So that's going to be really great for this particular catalyst here. We're going to be reducing the cooldown. Anything where you can reduce cooldown is going to be great. For your infusions, all of them have basically received some increase to damage, and some of them are pretty big. We're going to be looking at your burning damage for your smoldering embers is going up to 450% from 150%. The deactivation for all of them across the board, for all of your infusions, are now going to be increased. That was actually really, really great. And the way that it works for, let's say, chilling winds, that's where the 2 cones of what looks like really cold winds comes, and if you shoot a projectile through it, it slows it down a lot. What this is going to do, it will deactivate that chilling winds. It used to be 5 seconds. Now it's going to go up to 8 seconds. I really think that it's a great change. What happened in the pit, what I noticed, because one of them will deactivate your damage reduction monsters. 5 seconds is not long enough when you get into the higher levels of the pit sometimes to kill that damage reduction monster. And the damage reduction monster sometimes would just kind of wander off on its own wherever it wanted to go and then pop up. And now the damage reduction is back on and you have to reposition everything. So that 8 seconds is definitely going to help with that. Corrosive Vapor is getting a damage increase as well. Same thing with the Thunderous Particle. We're getting an increase to damage there. For the Arcana, this is where I think that we might be able to see a little bit of change from where we were seeing with the Spiritborn nerf. They're now going to get an additional 50% increased Thorns damage, and that's at rank 1. The damage per rank is unchanged, but it's going to start at 150 now and then increase from that. So having that nerf to the Spiritborn, it is still going to be a nerf to the overall damage, but it's not quite as bad with the increase here. Siphoning Gizmo. This one was what was interacting very, very strangely with Berserk Ripping and letting the barbarians do infinite damage. This is being reworked. It no longer interacts with your damage over time. Lucky Hit damage from your Catalyst has a 50% chance to deal 200%, and then you gain an additional 30% per rank physical damage. Your Catalyst Lucky Hit chance is doubled. They're now adding in a couple more ways to do physical damage because there are classes out there like the Barbarian, which heavily rely on physical damage. Most of everything on the PTR was all elemental damage. They actually made a note of that right here. Developers note, as this season offers extensive options for elemental character builds, we wanted to introduce new Herodic Jewels, which we're going to get to in just a second. So physical builds have something to chase as well. Now, they're adding physical builds, and they're also adding physical damage here. So we're going to see, and we'll talk about that jewel too, because it looks like it's going to be very strong for any of those physical classes out there. For the Nightmare Orb, the way that this infusion works, the legendary ones, based on the catalyst that you have in, it changes the ability that it's going to give you. So based on your catalyst, we're going to have Celestial Surge, Disintegrate, Propulsion, Astral Pillar, Cosmic Anomaly. Each one of these is going to give your Nightmare Orb a different ability. Each one of these options now have actually received a buff, which is really cool to see. Same thing with Frigid Heart. We're going to be getting a buff to the Cosmic Anomaly aspect of it. The anomaly has a 30% chance, was 10%, to preserve themselves instead of exploding and freezing the surrounding enemies. That's really cool because the Cosmic Anomalies randomly spawn, and you actually have benefits for having them alive. So if you have a higher chance of them not dying and going away, that'll be a really great change for this specific infusion. Bloody Charm. Bloody Charm is going to create the following effects from the catalyst. Propulsion. The Mana Blast from Propulsion will execute non-boss enemies. Successful executions grants movement speed for 5 seconds. This, unfortunately, is the buff that I was really hoping was going to stay into the next one. It used to reset the cooldown, and this was the very fun teleport build. This is now gone. That is kind of a bummer, but I figured that that was going to be the way that it went. After seeing an ability like that, it's definitely not something that has kind of stuck around through any of the PTRs. So we're going to get additional movement speed now from that. We teased the brand new Herodic Jewel. Let's talk about that right now. Herodic Jewels are going to be something that you can craft. As you go into these new nightmare dungeons, the escalating nightmare dungeons, you're going to find Herodic strong rooms. Inside of those strong rooms, you have a chance to get a tome. When you get those tomes, that will allow you to craft these jewels. Those jewels are going to give you incredibly good buffs. They only give you half of the resistances and half the armor of a regular jewel because you're combining the two together. So hitting those caps in this season is going to be a lot different. The new jewel, Will Breaker. Physical damage you deal shatters enemies' spirits, which is very funny, causing them to take a 40% increased physical damage over 6 seconds. This effect will apply the first time damaging a boss or an elite, or when they are affected by crowd control. Now, I'm not sure if that means that you get that 6 seconds of the boss fight, or it stays applied, or maybe when they go into stagger, then it comes back again. But I'm not too sure how that's going to work exactly, but we'll have to see exactly what it feels like. They added this little bit down here. Not only will players be able to craft Herodic jewels once they've found the tome, feedback from the PTR resulted in a slight change. Players will also have a small chance for the jewel to drop directly from Astaroth himself. That's the boss that you all get to fight at the very end. Now, there was a really, really cool trailer. You get to see Astaroth fight. I'll link the video I made about it in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check that out, and we'll cover a little bit more of what to expect going into the new season and coming out of another season if this is your first season. So if you want to watch that video, it'll be there as well. If you're a physical build looking for something new, this is going to be the jewel for you. So this is the way to go if you're going to be running something physical. For the jewels, we talked about finding tomes. They're going to start appearing in Torment 1. They talked about maybe adding the escalating nightmare dungeons into the leveling process, which would actually be really, really cool. Hopefully that comes in the future. Once you get to Torment 1, they're going to start appearing in the Herodic Strong Rooms. You're going to head to Karagar. That's where you're going to craft your Herodic jewels, and then you can slot them in exactly like you would any other gem. You can get your first one through the seasonal reputation, and that will be your introduction into making sure that you know how to craft them and where to go to get them. The official campfire chat will be on the 27th. That's this coming Friday. They're going to have drops available. If you watch for 30 minutes during the live stream on any Diablo 4 channel, you can earn yourself a drop from Twitch. So make sure you tune in, check it out, and see what's going to be happening. On July 1st, when the season goes live, Immortalize and I are putting on a little community event. I want as many people to sign up as possible. If you're going to be playing, and we have 2 different challenges out there for everybody. We're going to be doing one race to Torment 1, and then one race to Torment 4. If you're a content creator out there, we would love to collab with you and get your name onto this race. We're going to have a list of all of the content creators out there so that anybody that wants to watch the race and see where they are can bounce around and see who's winning. But this is not only open to content creators. Content creators will only be allowed to join the Torment 4 run. So if you have limited time and you want to just make that run to Torment 1, you can definitely sign up. The signups will be inside of Discord, so the link will be in the description of this video. It will be teams of 4. All members must stay in the same party from start to finish. We're going to have a clip of the boss kill. All 4 members have to be in the room fighting the boss. Seasonal powers must be shown for verification of the season. The top prizes in each member in each of the teams that place in the top 4 in both races will receive $50 Battle.net credit, a seasonal battle pass. Second place will be $20 Battle.net credit plus a season battle pass. And then third and fourth place teams will get a battle pass as well. Now, there's going to be more. Mobalytics is also hopping onto this because they're super excited that we're putting on an event too. We should be getting some merch possibly from them that we're going to give out. More to come as we get closer to the launch of the season. So keep an eye out, but make sure you hop into Discord and join us there. I'm super excited about this. We already probably have about 10 teams-ish that are going to be going out and joining us. So make sure that you are one of them. If you found this video helpful, make sure to share it with your friends. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.